Hey squad, Kristi here. This episode is a throwback to 1 month before the bodies of Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow were found on Chad Daybell's property. Lots of good info and a look at some of the things that brought us to where we are now in this case.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. This is Katie Weaver. I am here with my co-anchor and sister, Kristi Brower.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome. How are you?
I am okay. I am sunburned and tired from a long weekend of camping and hiking, but it was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
I just probably should have had an extra day to recover.
Man, we had so much fun.
We did. It was
We
great.
camped for 3 days over for Mother's Day, and yeah, it was awesome. But boy, we didn't really, first trip out really in sun.
Mhm.
We didn't think much about sunblock or,
Kind of
just
forget,
getting too much sun. In
when you live
Idaho,
in a
you
place that
do.
yeah,
Yeah,
because we don't get sun, most of the winter we get very little sun, and so we sort of
yeah.
forget that when spring rolls around and early summer rolls around that you're like, "Oh, yeah, I should probably be wearing sunblock right now."
Yeah,
Well, I remember now, trust me.
yeah, and we had a moose encounter, 2 moose encounters.
We sure did. That
We
was
took
really
a
fun.
hike and, had our kids so freaked out about moose safety because we hiked in a place where there are frequently moose that they were an absolute basket case. They finally just had enough and said, "We have to go back. I just can't. I'm just terrified we'll run into a moose." And we turned around, headed back, and immediately ran into a moose. So it was definitely their fault.
It was really funny. I gave
Mhm.
them a little safety talk that I thought would just, make them feel like they knew what to do if anything happened, and instead
Yeah.
it turned them into
Huh.
terrified, crazy people.
Yeah.
But then we ran into the moose, and it turned out that she just watched us the whole time, and, one of them actually said, "Is it going to eat us?"
Because moose
I'm
eat
like, "Are
people
you
all the
kidding
time.
me?" I said,
Who are
"No,
these
it might
kids? Who raised
stomp you to
them?
death if you're too stupid," but no, just kidding. It was very funny. I was
She
like,
just
"How
stood
do
in the
you not
trees.
know?"
Yeah, she stood in the trees and let us pass, and
Yeah.
then we went to hike the same place the next day, and we said to those same chickens,
Mhm.
"We're going back to hike out there. Do you wanna go?" And they all were like, "Scariest thing that's ever happened to me. Yes, I wanna go." So,
Yeah.
off we went again, and we weren't 50 feet down that trail, and I looked out into the woods, and sure enough, right there were 2 moose.
Yep.
Chilling. Yep, and again, they just watched us and, we didn't get stupidly close, well, most of us.
No.
And of
Yeah,
course, we did get some pretty sweet pictures. I'll share one,
we
in
did.
this, in the live stream, but yeah, so we had a good weekend for sure.
We
But
did, it was awesome.
a week we have had in the Vallow case. Every
Oh
week
my
we
gosh.
think we're going to move on and cover something else for a minute while this case settles down, but bro, it doesn't settle down.
It doesn't. It just continues to ramp up and ramp up and ramp up. I don't know what the end game is here.
I
I mean, I hope the end game is
Kids.
2 healthy kids get off a plane and arrive in Rexburg, Idaho to prove their
Yeah,
existence. But I don't know where
me
this is all
too.
headed. It's getting crazier and crazier.
Yeah, it is. It is. And so some of the highlights of the week, and then we'll dive deeper into them. The autopsy report for Alex Cox was released.
Yes.
There have been multiple interviews this week with Janice and Summer, that is Lori's mother and sister. There have also been
Mhm.
multiple interviews this week with Melanie and Ian, that is Lori's
Mhm.
niece and her new husband.
Yeah.
There has been a new document that Justin Lum released about Chad, a email that Chad sent to Lori with a bunch of past life information, or probations as they call them in their vernacular. But so those are
Mhm.
all things that have happened this week. We're going to hit on all of them
Mhm.
to some degree, though you'll always want to do a little of your own homework because there's no way we can share it all.
No. No, no, and you should go watch these interviews. Well, and of course, the Dateline interview that happened last week, but we were
Yeah.
covering it this week.
Yeah. Now there was supposed to be a 48 hours interview with Summer and Janice on Sunday night, and it was kind of abruptly rescheduled for next week. Kind
Well,
of
they had a
interesting.
big update on Israel Keys, and I don't know if you know who Israel Keys was, but
Oh,
he was a very famous he's dead, but he was a very famous serial killer, maybe one of the most prolific serial killers in history. They never knew for sure how many people he killed, and a lot of cases have been maybe attributed to him.
mm,
And so that's a big deal, and so I can see kinda why,
sure. Yeah.
why that
Bump
got bumped.
bump one wacko thing for another. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we got it. So let's start with the autopsy. So Alex
Mhm.
Cox died in December. He is the brother of Lori Vallow, the uncle of JJ and Tylee, the missing children. And actually, no, we're not starting there. We're starting where we should start. JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan are children. They have been
Mhm.
missing since September. Their mother,
Yes.
Lori Vallow, is being held in the Madison County Jail currently, not on charges of murder or of hurting the children per se, but currently on charges of child abandonment as well as a few misdemeanors.
Yep.
That's what's happening. That's why we're following this case. We're also following this case because it's happening in the town I live in, Rexburg,
Mhm.
Idaho, and the town that Kristi and I both grew up in.
Yeah.
And, Kristi lives nearby as well. We're also following this case because we are former Mormons. We were raised in the LDS church. And while not all of Lori and Chad's beliefs, subscribe directly to the church, there is some basis, maybe some foundation that we can help explain in some
Mhm.
of their beliefs and the things that they do. We can also help break down what is and isn't, because from this case, people have been a little confused about what Mormons believe, and we
Yeah.
are no longer Mormons and haven't been for a long time, but we have a pretty basic grasp of the doctrine, so we can help break it down a little.
Yeah, we were at one time in our lives very well versed, so
Mhm. Yeah, we were super Mormons. You bet
yeah,
we were.
long time ago.
It's what you do. It was what you did
Mhm.
in
At
our
the
day and
time.
age. Yeah,
Yeah.
at the time. So So that's why we're covering this case, but I don't ever want to start this show without saying their names.
Yeah.
JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan. JJ was 7 at the time that he disappeared. Tylee was 16. They both Tylee's had a birthday and is 17, and JJ has a birthday here in May and
Yeah.
would be 8. So that's why we're covering this case. All right, so
Mhm.
let's move on. So Alex Cox, this is the brother of Lori. Alex he shot and killed Lori's husband, Charles Vallow, in June of 2019. It was ruled self-defense at the time. However, that case has been reopened and there is an ongoing investigation into Charles's death. But
Mhm.
that did happen. Was also accused of, and is, I believe, still being investigated for the attempted shooting of Melanie Boudreau Pulowski's ex-husband, Brandon Boudreau.
Yes.
Melanie, again, is the niece of Lori. Try to keep all of the cobwebs straight here if you can.
Mhm.
Uh, but Melanie is the niece of Lori, and they were divorced and having in a custody battle. Someone in a Jeep that matches the description of the Jeep that Tylee drove shot out the back window, or sorry, so shot from the back window of the Jeep. The Jeep
Mhm.
was stationary at the time. As Brandon was pulling into his driveway, shot out his passenger window of his Tesla and missed his head by just a few inches.
Yeah.
That happened in, I believe, September or October.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
October, actually, October. But at any rate, so you'll hear more about Melanie later in this broadcast. But that is one of the things that Alex had been accused of. Alex also moved to Rexburg at the same time that Lori did and rented a
Mhm.
townhome in the same complex that she was renting a townhome. And that's what we know about Alex. Well, we know a lot more about Alex, but we did
We
a
did
whole show
a
on
whole show
Alex.
on
Yeah.
yeah.
So Alex died. Alex got married at the end of November to Zulema Pastenes, and just weeks later, he died. There's been a lot of suspicion and talk and wonder about what happened to Alex.
Mhm.
So the autopsy report finally came out this week, and they are saying that he died from natural causes from a blood clot in
Mm.
his lung, though they also specified that his death is an ongoing investigation. So
Mhm.
that is what the official autopsy report said, but it's not a closed book as of now.
No,
Anything
and
you want to add to that?
well, yeah, just that right after the autopsy report was released, so was the toxicology report, and the only thing of note on the toxicology report was Narcan on board, but that has been explained by, that most paramedics these days, if there's any question that they are treating someone for a drug overdose, they will give them Narcan, and
Yeah.
so it is believed that he was given Narcan by the paramedics and that
Yeah.
that wasn't really related.
Mhm.
But there
Yeah.
was nothing else in his toxicology because there were questions about was he poisoned? You know,
Mhm.
what ca he died rather violently and horribly,
Mhm.
foaming at the mouth and defecating, and it was really bad, and so there were
Mhm.
questions about, was he poisoned? What
Mhm.
they're saying that he had, an underlying health condition, high blood pressure that led
Mhm.
to this. Now,
Mhm.
I will say that after the fact now, and I always think it's interesting when people come out with information after the fact, but
Mhm.
in some of the interviews with, Melanie Pulowski, she has said that problem with, hypertension has run in her family,
Well, and with
and
blood clots? With blood
yeah, and with blood
clots, yeah.
clots. No one ever said that I saw anywhere at the time that he died, but
No.
now that that's been confirmed in his autopsy, now everyone's saying that. So,
Right.
rather conveniently now they're saying, "Oh, well, yeah, that ran in his family. That was" he was
Right.
he was
Well, but
only in his
also
40s. He wasn't or was he 51?
he was
51.
51,
He was
yeah.
young to have
Mhm.
died of something like that.
And according to Melanie as well, he had been poorly the week before and had
Mhm.
been telling her that he felt his chest was tight and he couldn't breathe, but that he was a tough guy and a stubborn guy and would never go to the doctor. So I
Yeah.
kinda step back and go, "Really? He had high blood pressure? Did he?"
Mm.
Because
Did he
according to his
actually
family, he wouldn't go to the doctor. And so,
did he
I don't
actually
know.
know?
Right, and wasn't treated maybe? I don't know.
There's
Anyway,
just
so
a
that's
lot of
what we know.
confirmation after the fact that's happening right now with stuff like that,
Yeah.
that I think, "Well, where were you guys when he died?" Why
Mhm.
was that not in the news around his death? Because it
Mhm.
wasn't. Um,
Mhm.
so I found that rather interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I did too. Yeah, so I think there'll be more to come in the death of Alex, but that's what we know right now. That's really
Yeah.
what I expected would happen. Frankly, I
Mhm.
think we're gonna hear something very similar in the death of Tammy Daybell, but I'm hoping I'm wrong. Really, really hoping I'm wrong. But, there's I can't shake the feeling that they've, figured something out here, you
Mm.
know? In
Well,
my heart of hearts, I don't believe that Alex died by natural causes, I don't. It's just way too coincidental. It's too easy.
and he
Uh,
was
all of his
so much
deaths
of a
happen.
liability to these individuals. He
Mhm.
knew way too much.
Yeah.
He's also being investigated potentially for the, um, attempt shooting attempt on, Tammy Daybell.
Right.
There was
Yeah.
some question, was that him? There are
Mhm.
questions about, was he involved with the children? I mean, we
Mhm.
know that he was in Yellowstone Park
Mhm.
the day that Tylee disappeared, he was there.
Mhm. He was there. Yeah. Yep.
So, there are a lot of questions around how much involvement has he had in all of these
Mhm.
deaths and missing persons, around Lori and Chad?
Yep. And for him to just, suddenly just fall over dead of natural causes, that's just that's way too convenient for me.
Mhm.
In my gut, that's not what my intuition is confirming at all. But
Yeah,
we'll
I'm
let
not
it play
sure
out.
either. Yeah, I
So,
mean, the fact that they're still investigating, even though the autopsy results are out,
yeah.
says something. So,
Mhm. Yes, it does. So that's where we are with that. Interestingly, multiple reporters have tried to reach out to his wife only to be referred to her attorney, who is a criminal law attorney.
mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
She lawyered up instantly.
Mhm.
Interesting. Anyway, maybe it's not interesting, but it's interesting to me.
Says
But
something.
yeah. So so we'll leave that there for now. Let's move on to the document that Justin Lum had this is an email that Chad had sent to Lori regarding their past probations, which was what they called past lives. So we had shared last week about a document that Chad shared with Lori, ranking all of these people in her family as various levels of light and dark.
Yeah.
So the first part of this document is Joshua Vallow is a 4.2 light in this lifetime, right? Second life was 400 BC. He was among the lost tribe of Manasseh in northern Europe. And what is the lost tribe of Manasseh?
Okay, so we had to look this one up, of course. Some of these we knew, some of we didn't. The tribe of Manasseh was part of a loose confederation of
Uh-huh.
Israelite tribes
Mhm.
from after the conquest of the land by
Mhm.
Joshua until the formation of the first kingdom of Israel, circa 1050 BC.
Okay.
So Old Testament stuff.
Old Testament stuff. So that apparently was his take on J.J. Vallow. Next life, he was a son of James and Elena. James being the disciple of Jesus Christ and his wife.
Mhm.
Uh, then he was, he was I guess a 3 at that point. It doesn't say. Then he was a 4.1 light. In 1745, he was Jonathan Elliot Edwards. Jonathan Elliot Edwards was a theologian at the time that lived
Mhm.
in New York. Yeah. Anyway, that apparently is who he was. And then, of course, and now here he is today as a 4.2 light. How lucky he
Mhm.
gets. Yeah, well, what do we know? Okay, Lori Vallow. Lania, daughter of Methuselah, uh, and married Neil A. Maxwell. So I'm not really sure. We got to kind of flesh that one out. So Neil A. Maxwell was a prophet in the LDS church, in the
Mhm.
Mormon church. So is he saying that she married the soul of Neil A. Maxwell
I'm
back in the time
wondering
of
if
Methuselah?
he's saying that Methuselah, yeah, if that's who probably, I don't know.
That's what I think that means. So Methuselah is also Old Testament. Methuselah was a patriarch whose lifespan was 969 years.
Right.
And he's been celebrated as the longest living human if you subscribe to such things.
Mhm.
So that's who Methuselah was. So that's what I'm guessing is that this was also Genesis claims that without really any much genealogical fact, but claims that Methuselah was the great 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 grandson of Seth, who was the child of Adam and Eve.
Oh, right.
So they're tying themselves back to the
Direct.
very beginning. Yeah.
Except if you believe that story, then we all tie back to the very beginning because,
Yeah.
you know?
Uh, so
Okay.
that's what I think is that must be the soul who then became Neil A. Maxwell.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. Then she was Elena. Remember that name?
Mhm.
Daughter of Jesus's half brother Judas, married James the Just.
Mhm.
James the
So
Just,
she
so claiming she
married
was
to her son at one point then, married to JJ.
no, she was the mother of JJ.
Oh, the mother of JJ.
JJ was the son of James and Elena.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
Then
many
she
names to keep track of.
yeah. Then she was Ilamari, Prophet Moroni's wife. Moroni being a big figure in the Book of Mormon.
Mhm.
Uh, that's where that comes from. And then Mary French, who was the wife of Robert Smith Jr. Was Robert Smith a brother to Joseph Smith
I think so. Related.
or a son of Joseph Smith? Again, that is
Somehow
that's in
connecting into the Mormon lineage.
someone in the Mormon lineage. Yep. Then there's a segment that talks about that James and Elena had 7 children, 4 sons and 3 daughters, and 2 of them are listed, Melanie Boudreau and JJ Vallow. The rest of them were blacked out because Justin Lum said that they didn't even know they made the list. And he
Mm.
didn't really want to put all of their, info out there to the
Sure.
world because, that's a bit, well, I don't know. You might run for cover right now,
Yeah.
but at
You
any
may not
rate,
want to be affiliated here at all.
right. So we wanted to talk about this because past lives is something that certainly, Kristi and I are no strangers to in both of our work. We work in past lives. And so, and if you don't subscribe to past lives, that's totally fine. You definitely don't have
You
to,
know who doesn't subscribe to past lives?
Mormons.
Mormons.
Yeah.
Mormons do not believe in past lives. So I found this
No.
interesting. This is a big deviation from Mormon
Mhm.
doctrine. This is most definitely
Mhm.
not something that would be endorsed by
No.
the LDS Church.
No, definitely no. One of the things that Kristi and I discussed with the idea of past lives, it's kind of interesting is, I've probably done hundreds of past life regressions in my career. And Kristi, you have done a ton of work in past lives
Oh, many,
yourself.
many, yeah, hundreds and hundreds.
And the idea that in every life you are some kind of a historical figure or famous person is laughable.
Totally laughable. Absolutely. It's the first sign of just quackery to me.
Me too.
What is it? Isn't Chad in there too? Is Chad not on that list?
It's not on that
'Cause I
list.
would just love to know who he's determined that he was as well.
Me too.
But
I'm
the
sure that's in his bio and stuff, but I don't have
Oh, I bet
that.
it is. But the potential that they were all, these famous figures from the Bible, and then let's get into the figures from the Book of Mormon because this one's very interesting, I
Mhm. Yeah.
because there is absolutely no archaeological or historical record to indicate that any of the people in the Book of Mormon ever existed.
Yeah.
It's just not there. It's
No.
not there. There's nothing in the
No.
archaeological record. There's nothing in recorded history, nothing. And so if you say that Lori was the wife
Captain Moroni.
Captain
Mhm.
Moroni, there is Captain Moroni, and I don't want to offend any Mormons, but there is no proof whatsoever that anyone
No.
named Captain Moroni or any of those folks that lived at the time that the Book of Mormon was supposedly written ever existed. They
No.
didn't. There's no proof of
No.
it. That has been interestingly enough, that has been investigated by BYU Provo.
Mhm.
Their archaeological division actually went out to find the archaeological truth of the Book of Mormon, and they found zip. Nothing. They found nothing.
Right. Because the Book of Mormon, there are many parts of it that are describing these enormous battles,
Mhm.
between these
Huge populations of
huge
people.
populations of people and of armies with swords and armor and breastplates. And if that happened, and if those things happened right here in the Americas, there would be some archaeological proof. There is
Right.
all kinds of archaeological proof of the existence of the Romans
Mhm.
and of many other cultures, that were warring and that had metalwork and had, were doing ironwork and had these kinds of, capabilities. There's nothing,
No. Not
nothing to
not
indicate that. So yeah, the ones particularly that are tying them back to the Book of Mormon, I think, are very fanciful. Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and it's just all fanciful to think that, in every
Mhm.
life they were some
Somebody special.
historical,
Yep.
theological, whatever special person,
Mhm.
you know, um, billions and billions and billions and billions of people have lived on this planet.
Yeah.
And the chances that you were even one well-known person in a previous life is pretty slim.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and all the ones I've done, I can only think of a time or two that somebody had some kind of prestige. And,
Mm.
that's not to cut anyone down. It's just that when someone has to be that special, there's always a red flag for me. And man, Chad and Lori have a need to be special. Holy cow.
Boy, do they ever. That is
Yeah.
just further proof, and it's like every week there's more proof of that desire to be special and better and,
Hmm.
a
Yep.
goddess and,
On a
I
standout, yeah.
I would ask what's wrong with who they are, you know? I mean, obviously,
Mhm.
we have a lot of reasons for that. Yeah, but
Would you ask that?
in general, I would say, but what's wrong with who they are? You know, what's wrong with who anybody? Why do you have to be some well-known something to be a good person? You don't. And
Yeah.
in fact, you know, in this situation, I don't think we're dealing with good people anyway. But anyway,
No,
it was
but
very interesting to me, and I was just immediately
mhm,
struck by, "Oh, yeah, I've seen this kinda stuff before," you know?
mhm. Well,
Oh,
and interesting that Chad
everybody.
ranked every one of those even past life characters by ranking of light and dark, which again makes me go back because last week I had said that I really believed that he was doing this, not just for Lori, but he was doing these readings for other people and sending them all of this information. I would love to know if he was doing that, the past life stuff for other people with all
Mhm.
of these light and dark rankings. I am betting you dollars to donuts that he was.
Yeah, I'll bet he was too. I'd be so curious, you know, if you're
Mhm.
out there and you've got one of these,
We want to see it.
find us. We're on Facebook, True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. We wanna know about it.
For
Bring it
sure.
on.
But of course, fitting that Melanie and JJ, of course, were Lori's children in her life as Elena and James. Uh,
Mhm.
but where the hell is Tylee? Because never in any of the past lives did we look at who Tylee was or
Nope.
tie Tylee back to Lori. That just brings me back to the more, obvious ickiness around her energy towards Tylee.
Mhm.
Chad's ranking Tylee as a 4.3 dark, which in Chad's little ranking system, a poor 4 point dark is a super bad dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've been struck all along with this case about the erasure of Tylee and
Mhm.
how little she's talked about.
Mhm.
How, you know, her aunt Annie Cushing has done a fantastic job of speaking for her
Mhm.
and now her brother Colby as well. But, you know, when you in general, what you hear
Mhm.
about is JJ, not Tylee. But the more that
Yeah.
you learn about the past history in this family, that's not new. That's obviously
Yeah.
something that's been going on for a long time.
Yeah. Yep. Obviously, really, really a sad deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's leave that piece and move on to Melanie and Ian
Whew.
and all of
They've
the
had a lot to
bananas.
say all over the place the last couple of weeks.
Yes, they have. It
They've
seems
said a
as
lot without saying a damn thing, I guess is more like what I would like to say.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Well, it seems to me that, 2 things. First of all, it seems to me that perhaps, uh, either Melanie's attorneys in working on her custody case or Lori's attorneys have asked some people or paid some people to step up and get into the limelight and vouch for Lori.
Yeah.
Because suddenly this week we have Lori's mother and sister who haven't said shit all along going,
Mhm.
I don't know where the kids are, but Lori's just not that guy. She's not a
She's a
bad
great mother. She
guy.
loves her kids.
Yeah.
She would never hurt them. We haven't heard from them or talked to them in this entire time, but we're sure they're okay.
Yeah.
Give me a
Yeah.
break.
We're okay. No,
They
we
don't
don't
know
know.
anything, and
Grandma said she knows JJ's okay. Do you know how she knows? Because she's pretty sure she talked to him for an hour on the phone on October 1st.
mhm,
And that is well beyond the time that they say that he disappeared.
mm,
Well, no, it's not. It's within about a week of the time that they think that JJ disappeared.
mhm.
For one. For two, she has absolutely no proof of that conversation. And for three, what autistic 7-year-old do you know that stays on the phone with his grandma for an hour?
None.
None.
My impression from
None.
all of that was that they really have no relationship with Lori or her kids at
Yep.
all. They
Yep.
don't really know them, they have no idea what's going on here, and
Mhm.
they have been enlisted to try to bring some positive light. But they
Oh,
can't even
yeah.
do it because they don't have anything to say. They don't know anything.
Yeah. Well, apparently, Summer, the sister, had shared that she has never been invited to even one of Lori's weddings. Lori's been married 5 times. So
Mhm.
let that sink in. 5 times she's been married, not one time has her sister Summer been invited to her wedding.
Yeah.
Now, when you've been married
Ooh,
5 times, you
flat.
probably don't, maybe make a big splash every time, but then again, this is Lori we're talking about, who has a real need to be special, so I would imagine most of those weddings actually were a fairly big affair.
I would imagine.
Now, we know the one with Chad was just her and Chad, but, at any rate, yeah, very interesting there. We don't have a lot to say about the interview with, Summer and Janice because it was actually really brief. They said nothing really except for
No.
that Lori's just a good mom. She just wouldn't do that. She just
Well,
wouldn't do
the
that.
other part of it that just really irritated me was, well, we haven't asked her where the children are because she's in jail and all of her conversations are recorded. Number 1, she's only been in jail for 2 months. Where the
Yeah.
hell were you,
Mhm.
grandma and aunt, all these months when this kid was missing? And grandma, if
Mhm.
you had talked to him on October 1st and you didn't tell the police that after he was reported missing,
Mhm.
what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Number 2, if the kids are okay, why is that bad to say on a recorded phone call in jail?
Right. Right.
It's not. That would
What are we
actually
hiding at this point?
yes,
Why would she
obviously
not
everything.
say, "Yeah. Yeah,
It was
we can't
just a
she can't tell the truth because,
stupid thing to say.
yeah, very stupid thing to say. But yeah, she's only been in jail for 2 months. They could have talked to her when she was in Hawaii. I mean, it was before
They had
Christmas.
no idea these kids were missing. They didn't
No,
even know.
they didn't know. They
They have
didn't
no
know.
contact. They are
They
there's
didn't know Lori
0
was
information.
married. Yeah, they didn't know anything. No.
No,
So they are completely pointless, I think, and, whatever they have to say is not all that worthwhile, but
no.
at any rate, so let's give a little time then to however, when their interview airs on ABC, we'll definitely watch it
Yeah, yeah,
and
well,
discuss, but at any rate. So let's give a little energy to the Pulowskis. So,
whew, the Pulowskis, who were sitting next to their attorney during this entire
yes.
interview, which I found
Mhm.
interesting.
Way back when Summer sorry, I'm still stuck on Summer. Way back when Melanie moved to Rexburg, and Melanie moved to Rexburg sometime in October. She and Alex left Arizona on Halloween and drove to Rexburg with her stuff. She had rented a townhome next door to Lori.
Mhm,
And she started doing a little online dating. This is her story. She was
mhm.
online dating and met someone and went out to dinner with them. And lo and behold, he lived right across the way from her in the same complex. What a coinky dink. There's sure
Weird.
a lot of those.
There sure are. Yeah, I thought that one was so suspect.
Yes, and they dated for a half a minute and they went to Las Vegas and got married. And also, very coincidentally, chose the same weekend that Alex and Zulima were getting married in Las Vegas.
Yes.
Again, such an enormous coincidence. Yeah,
Weird.
weird. After they got married on their wedding night, Melanie starts spilling her guts to Ian about this crazy friggin' family she's in and
Mm,
all of this stuff about the things that they believe, and it freaks him out. In the meantime, she is telling Ian that he cannot tell his ex-wife, Natalie, what Melanie's last name is because she
mm.
thought that Natalie Pulowski might do a little homework on her and, you know, be concerned
Yeah,
as well
'cause as
she should.
Boudreaux, some stuff had gone down,
This was
and
after Brandon Boudreaux had been shot at. There was a clear connection between her and Lori.
there
Yeah.
was the trespassing at her in-laws' house and the incident with the police.
Right, she actually has a criminal record from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she wanted him to not, let Melanie kno or let Natalie know, what person, was helping raise her children.
Mhm.
She did let her know. So I have an email here that Natalie wrote. We believe she wrote to one of Brandon Boudreaux's coworkers in trying to
Yes.
track Brandon down because she wanted to talk to him. Because,
Yeah.
suddenly she discovered that her very recently ex-husband, they'd only been divorced for about 5 months,
Yeah.
uh, was married to someone who was wrapped up in maybe some scary shit. So she wrote this email. She says, "So I shared the information that you gave me and relayed it. And basically, on their wedding night, she laid out the whole cult thing, but didn't say it was a cult. Because, guys, how could it? It's not a what?" And he was
Lots
just
of
so,
dead people
yeah.
and
And he was
relatives.
just,
Sounds like
yeah,
a cult to me.
it kind of Yeah, quacks like it, doesn't it?
Mhm.
And he was just so confused. Anyway, she told him that in March, a demon possessed my body, and my spirit came to her in a vision or dream and told her this. This is what she said about Natalie. So
Mhm.
Natalie is afraid for her life at this point. This
Mhm.
was around Christmas time. She was interrogated by the police for 5 hours yesterday and told my ex that two of the police officers were possessed with the spirits of two of the original 12 disciples of Cain. She told him that my kids' spirits were full of light, but that can change basically at any moment. She has isolated him pretty badly. Like, she has driven him to work every day this week for one reason or another, won't let him talk to his family, makes him listen to weird podcasts where he feels this pit in his stomach, but she tells him there are light and dark weapons, and the bad feelings are the dark weapons. She said that in a past life, she was the niece
Whew.
of Jesus. Remember the past life thing?
Mhm.
Look, my ex is not the best person in the world. He's not. He has a record for what? Domestic
Domestic
violence.
violence. Mhm.
But I am legitimately scared for my own life and my kids' life and my ex's. I heard something about a missing person that she may be involved in. I don't know the details on that one. I'm sure she does now.
Mhm.
I have literally no idea what to do. I think he is planning on going to the police for some help, and I'm thinking she might blame me and come after me. I mean, if she's convinced that I'm a demon and God tells her to kill me, I could end up another missing person case. He is terrified, Ian,
Mhm.
that he asked me to take the kids away on his weekend, which is next weekend, because he doesn't want them around her. He has never done that ever. The kids were in Vegas for their wedding,
Yeah.
you know. He said that she didn't want me learning her last name because I would contact her ex-husband and he would tell me that she tried to kill him and she's in a cult. I've never seen anyone so terrified. He told me to look up the names Alex Cox and Chad Daybell. I am so sorry for dragging you into this, but I have no idea what to do. Can you just get this email to the right people? Have them help us? Have them help them? I don't know. Thanks, Natalie Pulowski. And again, there's been a lot of speculation about who that email was to, but it sounds as though it was to a coworker of Brandon's in trying to make a connection with Brandon. So
Yeah.
that says a lot. That says a lot about what the hell was going on there.
Right.
But there's so Ian and Natalie meet up together and they go to the police and sit down, and Ian spills his guts. And when he gets there to talk to the police, not only are the police there, but the FBI is there
Yeah.
because, missing kids.
Right.
And so he spills his guts to them about all of this stuff and trying to figure out what in the world is going on. And
Yeah.
he is afraid, he's hearing all of this stuff. And he also says that Melanie is feeling super confused, that her uncles have her very confused, that they have told her that two of her children are dead, and she doesn't know what to believe. She, in her interview with Nate Eaton, she's really paranoid that her ex-husband is doing something to her or, trying to screw
Mhm.
things up for her in some way. And maybe he was. I mean, it sounds like, things with them were far from amicable. But
Mhm.
at any rate, she was very messed up, from all of the things that Alex and Chad were telling her. And she didn't know what to do. She said that she learned some of the things that she believes in talking about in the temple, and she learned some of them from Chad and Lori.
Yeah.
Melanie said that they believed in porting, that they could travel, they could port themselves anywhere in the world by porting, which some people could call astral travel or astral
Mhm.
projection. They were calling it porting. It's
Well,
kind of
I don't think
interesting.
it's any kind of physical projection because Lori's still sitting in jail. So,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, astral projection is most definitely a thing, and a lot of people can
Uh-huh.
do it, and
Oh, the
I can do it.
CIA has traveled, or yeah, the CIA has studied astral projection.
Yeah.
Just yeah, extensively. Yeah,
I
it
can
is the
do it
thing.
when I'm traveling to check on my pets at home. I've been
Uh-huh.
able to do it for a long time.
Mhm.
But, they take things to such extremes, and I also feel like they use things like that as a threat.
Mhm.
Like they want everyone to know they can do something like that, just in case you were thinking about, telling on them or, doing something they didn't want you to do. They could show up at any moment.
Yeah,
It's kind of a Santa Claus is watching sort of a thing, I think.
definitely, definitely. They so that's kind of where things started, and he told the police a lot of things, and then the FBI asked him to wear a wire and talk to Melanie, and supposedly he wore a wire for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
in which time he was supposed to be trying to get her to talk about the whereabouts of the children.
Mhm.
And they claim that there was just really nothing that came out of that. However, other sources say there was lots that came out of that. And, that I think there'll be more to come on the wire. But according to
Mhm.
Ian and Melanie, really nothing was said. Now, at the end of the year, Ian gave his ex wife a computer. And she pulled up the computer and discovered in the computer this enormous document that he had written, writing out all of the things that the entire story of all the things that she had said to him, wearing the wire, the things that he told the police, this
Mhm.
enormous document. She had shared that with Justin Lum, and you can find that over on his Facebook page if you want to see the whole thing. I highly recommend that you do.
It's very
I'm not
interesting.
going to read the whole thing, yeah, but it
No.
is very, very interesting. And so, he claims that he wrote that document for Melanie's attorneys to try to help with her custody case, because at this point, she did not show up to their final custody case because
Yeah.
her uncles told her not to, and full custody of her children was granted to Brandon.
Yeah.
Brandon, who took the kids and went into hiding because he was afraid for his life.
And she
Now
said
they
repeatedly in these interviews, and it just irritated me, that her children are being withheld from her, and she doesn't even know where they are, and she didn't even show up for the custody
Mhm.
hearing for them.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
all of this
didn't
stuff is happening, and so what does their dad do? Takes them and protects them,
yeah.
like any sane parent would do. There was a lot of, I'm picked on kinds of stuff in that interview on East Idaho News that really bothered me. Like, there was no accountability on her part in that interview about
No,
her own choices and the things that
no.
she had chosen and the things that she's done, you
Oh, yeah.
know?
No, this was just all everybody beating up on her,
Yeah.
everyone being unfair to her. There is a text that Ian sent to his ex-wife. Don't respond. I need you to encourage Brandon to keep info he gets on this on the down low until I can get this sorted out. She didn't.
Mm.
I want to help, but it will be tough if everyone starts figuring out what I'm learning. She didn't know beforehand what was going to happen. They made the attempt, failed, and told her about it after the fact. I understand that he doesn't want the kids around her because of all of this, but I believe if she can see them, it will put a huge dent in her trust with her uncles. She's scared and had been told her 2 middle children are dead. She has a family court date on 12/11. I'm trying to get her to go. Hold on, I have the other piece of it. I
Trying to
don't know
get
if I
her to
can
go to her
convince
own
her.
custody hearing, good heavens.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I can convince her to go to the family court hearing on Wednesday. I'm trying, but she got an answer from God last night himself. Her I don't know what that meant. What answer? Her uncles have her so wrapped up, they're telling her she needs to move to Ammon. Ammon is another town very near where we live,
Mhm.
very, very near where Chad and Lori claim the tent cities will be set up when
Right.
Christ returns here. And gosh, guys, just a couple months. Hope you have your tent.
Right.
Uh,
I better get on Amazon.
Yes, that's not gonna happen because I'm not going to leave Rexburg. Interestingly, he did leave Rexburg and moved to Arizona just a couple of
Mhm.
months later. Yeah, they think it has something to do with jurisdiction. Dumbest thing ever. Don't respond just because Oh, just wanted to update you earlier because I had a quick second to call. Stay safe. That was a text from Ian on December 8th to Natalie Pulowski. So poor Natalie. I mean, she
Right.
never, ever signed up for any of this outrageous bullshit. She has
No.
been afraid for her life and afraid for her children
Mhm.
and even for her ex because I think she's a pretty dang decent person, and has been
Mhm.
really worried about this whole thing. Now fast forward to Melanie and Ian sitting down with East Idaho News for a long interview where
Mm.
they said essentially nothing,
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the stories were inconsistent, and there was a lot of,
a lot of
obviously them not telling the
inconsistencies.
truth, but they told nothing about where the children are, or they didn't tell the truth about anything.
No, no.
It was all
Melanie
sunshine and roses, like, "One day the children will they'll come back." She said it that way several times, which I found
Mhm,
interesting, and I think we need to remember that. They will
mhm,
come back and, like they're on some grand adventure. I mean, where the hell are they? They will
mhm.
come back, and then everything will be perfect and blah, 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 blah. It was just all really ugh,
The way Melanie talks
yeah.
is very strange, and I wondered if you would assess that. What do you think about the way she speaks?
Melanie gives me the impression that she's had some maybe learning challenges in her past, and I'm not passing judgment, I'm not diagnosing, it's just my experience as a social worker hearing someone speak. I think she maybe had some learning challenges and some speech challenges as a kid because she's very deliberate in her speech. It's kind of slow, and it's very deliberate. She also says a lot of things that are platitudes or
Mhm,
cliches,
mhm,
almost as though, and I've known other people with speech issues like that, they sort of memorize things that they can say. I had that impression. She did herself admit during that interview that she takes a really long time to process information, and that some
mhm.
of the things that have happened have been difficult for her because it takes her a long time to understand what's
Yeah,
happening. I
yeah.
honestly feel like Melanie is a very vulnerable adult in a lot of ways, given her past history, and we can't get into all of it right now because we're gonna run out of time, but given her history and given her family, I feel like she's very vulnerable and that she has looked to these family members, Lori and Alex particularly, as
Mhm.
her guiding light and has
Yeah,
just believed and done whatever they've said, and then Chad came into the picture and they endorsed him, and so she did the same thing. That's my impression of her. I don't feel like she's made some great choices, but do I feel like she has the same kind of nefarious intent as Chad and Lori and Alex? No, I don't. She also is
no.
someone who seems to blindly trust and has not asked any questions.
Uh-huh.
By her own admission, she just didn't ask.
Mhm.
Kinda sounds like Lori's mother and sister as well.
A lot. Every interview Melanie has done, she has had inconsistencies.
Yeah, she changes her stories
Everyone.
all the time.
She changes her story a lot. One kind of, insignificant one, but just kinda made me go, "Yeah," another one was in the interview with Nate Eaton on East Idaho News. She says that when her mother died, her dad took her away and did not allow her to see her family. Actually, she said a couple of things that I thought were really strange. And this is a direct quote. "My mother passed away when I was 9. Lori was the one that called me and told me the news. She said, 'Your mom's in a coma and she's probably not going to make it.'" Who would call and say that to a 9-year-old?
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
who
I
would
mean,
call and say that to a
who would
9
call and say that to a that to me didn't happen, or it didn't happen
Mhm.
that way. That really
No.
struck me as, "What the hell?" Okay, she said, "I blah, blah, blah. I admire her so much." She says this about Lori over and over. "I admire her
Mhm.
so much," which I
Yeah.
think at this point, I would stop saying that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Even if it's still
Anyway,
true, maybe not worth saying.
then she says, "I remember flying up with my dad who took me to see my mom my last time in hospice." I mean, this is so sad. Mom had type 1 diabetes and gastroparesis
Yeah,
and
really
basically
severe.
starved to death. Yeah, terrible. She passed, and my dad didn't let me see or talk to any of my dad's side of the family, or to that side, sorry, her mom's side. So I'm going to
Mhm.
start that over. She passed, and my dad didn't let me see or talk to that side of the family. I don't know why, other than he was saying all sorts of things about them. Very next thing Nate Eaton asks is, "So did Lori somewhat raise you after your mom passed?" She says, mainly my grandma Janice. Lori was busy with her own life, blah, blah, blah. Apparently, from the time her mother died until she turned 15, she was completely cut off from from her mother's family. And yet, literally in the next breath, she says that mainly her grandma Janice raised her after
Yeah.
her mother died.
Yeah. I don't think her memory's super good, and
Yeah.
I think she just kinda makes it up as she goes along. There were a lot of answers like that she's
Mhm.
also very evasive, and she
Mhm.
gives these big platitudes instead of answering
Mhm.
the actual questions, you know?
Totally. The other part of that is that her dad is helping Brandon Boudreaux. Her dad has been texting her. She says sending her bullying texts. I kind of suspect he's trying to snap her out of whatever bullshit she's in, you
Mhm.
know. But basically, and obviously, he had a very tense relationship with her
Mhm.
mother's side of the family and didn't let them see her for 6 years. I mean,
Mhm.
there's obviously a lot of issues here, but
Yeah.
at any rate, yeah, her dad is helping. He's been seeing the children. He is in contact with them, with Melanie's children. Let me
Mhm.
be very clear. Um, and it has been helping Brandon with his custody case. So I think that's very telling as well. I would really, really, really like to see an interview with him.
Yeah.
I would really like to hear his side of this family. I mean, obviously, he doesn't know
Mhm.
anything about Lori's missing kids, but he knows plenty about this family, obviously,
Yeah.
and it seems to me, at least trying to do what he can to help protect his grandchildren. So
Mhm.
I'm laying in wait. I'm sure somebody is working hard on getting an interview with him.
Oh, I'll
I would
bet.
really like to see that. I hope
Mhm.
Justin Lum, Justin Lum tried to get an interview with with Janice
Summer.
and Summer, and their lawyers very specifically said, "Oh no, you will
No, no.
not be interviewing them. Someone from your news agency perhaps can, but it won't be you." And
Yeah,
I thought
very
that was
specifically.
so hilarious and very telling that they don't like Justin. And they
Mhm.
also haven't given Nate Eaton any access to them because Nate
Mhm.
Eaton from East Idaho News and Justin Lum from Arizona from
Mhm.
Fox. I can't ever say what
Fox News
station.
10,
Fox
Arizona,
News 10 in
Phoenix.
Arizona. Yeah, they have both been diligent and broken most of this case open. So,
Yeah.
along with Annie Cushing, who has done an insane amount of fantastic work,
Yeah.
along with others. But
Mhm.
anyway, that's kind of it. That's all of the stuff that happened this week. Those are all of the
Mhm.
things that rolled out. So, it might be a quieter week. Oh, there was one last piece, and that's that Mark Means. You guys know we told you the outrageous tale of Lori's bail hearing last week.
Mhm.
Well, Mark Means filed a subpoena or asked to subpoena all of these records, the phone records from Telmate, still trying to beat that horse and prove that in some way he was wronged. And the Idaho State Attorney General's office said, no.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
said, this is ridiculous. And no, we're not turning those over to you. There's absolutely no reason to. You move on.
Yeah.
So, yet again, instead of actually trying to help his client, he's still trying to prove that he in some way was beat up on and wronged. And,
Yeah.
I don't know. When Mark Means claims he doesn't have the time to do all of the work he needs to do for his client, it's because he's so busy serving himself.
Yeah, it is. It's because he's busy tattling.
Totally, totally. So we're going to leave it here. That's plenty to digest in 1 week.
Right?
If you want to see the documents we've talked about, if you want to see the interviews we've talked about, go to eastidahonews.com or go find Justin Lum on Facebook. Either
Mhm.
way, find all of the stuff that we're discussing here so that you can read all of the documents and watch the interviews in their entirety if you have that kind of time. Because
Yes.
I barely do.
If not, we'll just keep breaking it down for you.
That's right. Of course, we want to let you know that this is a podcast as well as a video on YouTube. So if you're finding it one way and would like to find it the other, you can find the podcast through nearly all of your regular podcasting
Platforms.
platforms.
Yeah.
On YouTube, we are True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Over
Mhm.
on Facebook, you can find True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. And we have a discussion group there as well so that you can come and help us hash out cases. So
Mm.
that's what we have going on. Don't forget to subscribe, to like, to comment. We love to hear what you guys have to say,
Yes,
and
we
we will
do.
all keep on keeping on. But let's all remember that at the crux of this case, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan are missing children,
Yes.
and we are all working towards helping them be found.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys, stay well. Take care.